Good evening. How are you? My name is Dawn Abear, and I'm with Voters East of the Industrial Canal. I want to welcome you to the forum. Thank you for joining us. So as we're just going to get started. So I would like you to give us your full name, your profession, the number of years in that profession, and what seat you are seeking. Also, your number, your number for people to know who to vote for. Okay, Ms. Douglas.
Good evening. My name is Rhonda Good Douglas, and I am an attorney. I have practiced for 25 years, and my number is number 90 on the ballot, and I'm running for Criminal District Court, Section E.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Bunton.
Good evening. I am Chief Public Defender Derwin Bunton. I am an attorney. I am running for Criminal District Court, Section E. I have been an attorney for 22 years, and I've been the Chief of the Public Defender's Office for 11 years.
Thank you.
I am number 89 on the ballot.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd like you to introduce you to Brandon Gilmore, who's with You're Going to Feel Me podcast, and Donna Glapion. They will be your moderators for tonight. Okay, let's get started.
Good evening to you both. This is Donna Glapion, and we welcome you to the forum tonight. I'm going to start off with 4 questions. The first of which I would like Ms. Good Douglas to answer, and then Mr. Bunton in that order. The question is, how different are you from your opponent, and what plans do you have for the first 100 days on the bench?
So I think the main difference between me and Mr. Bunton, obviously we have both spent a lot of time in criminal district court. I as a prosecutor and Mr. Bunton as the chief public defender. But the biggest difference that I think between myself and Mr. Bunton is the amount of trial experience that I've had. I was a trial attorney for 12 and a half years in Orleans Parish at the district attorney's office. I was assigned to the major offense team. And then I also did 2.5 years of trial experience in Jefferson Parish, as well as a criminal prosecutor, where I was assigned as a regular trial ADA. So I have logged countless hours in court and spent countless hours in trial, unlike Mr. Bunton. The other major difference that I think exists between Mr. Bunton and myself is that currently Mr. Bunton is still working for the public defender's office as the chief public defender. And he will have to recuse himself from the majority of the cases that are currently assigned to Section E. So I would say that I will be able to serve the citizens of Orleans Parish in District Court Section E immediately upon election. Unlike Mr. Bunton, he will have to go through and recuse himself of all of the cases that his office has handled, and will have to continually recuse himself because he is still currently employed. I resigned my position to run for this office as proof of my dedication to the citizens of Orleans Parish. My plan for the first 100 days, obviously, is to go through the docket. You know, we are currently in a pandemic, and the cases are just unfortunately not being able to be moved. I plan on reviewing files and getting them in the best order if we need to get them to trial as soon as possible, or get them at least in a motion ready area. So that is my plan, just to get the files ready. I have figured out how I want to run my courtroom effectively and efficiently with, setting cases for an arraignment, and then setting dates for individuals to return with an attorney, as well as then setting them for a motion hearing, or if we can plea them out, if not, getting them ready for trial within a matter of 60 days.
Thank you, Ms. Good Douglas. Mr. Bunton, same question. How different are you from your opponent, and what plans would you have for your first 100 days on the bench? Mr. Bunton, you're muted.
Thank you. Rookie Zoom mistake right there.
No
Uh,
problem. Start
uh,
from the beginning, sir. We didn't hear anything you said.
Gotcha. Well, I think I would start with what I would do in the first 100 days on the bench. The first thing I would do is take an inventory of the cases that are on my docket and pull my staff together to do some level setting and look at expectations. We are in the midst of a global pandemic, so I know there's a backload of cases. I know there are I think there's maybe 1,000 bills of information ready to be filed but can't be by the district attorney's office right now. And so I would be looking with my staff, and probably after meeting with my staff and setting expectations on what I expect from them in the courtroom, I would call in the parties, prosecutors, public defenders, defense attorneys, and try to think of some innovative ways to move these cases, to resolve the matters that are coming before me, so that this backlog doesn't destroy the court, doesn't ruin people's ability to have faith that due process and fairness will happen in Section E. And once I do that, once we come up with a plan for action for that, I would proceed to move our docket. I would proceed to schedule the cases in accordance with the plans we have made together by bringing all parties together and cooperating, and move my cases. I think that what makes us different is I am the only candidate in this race with a demonstrated history of successful executive level leadership and positive system level reform. I've been an attorney for 22 years and I've practiced all across the state. From Minden to Hammond to Breaux Bridge. I've appeared and litigated in every appellate circuit in the state of Louisiana, and I've argued before our Supreme Court multiple times. I've had hundreds of trials, albeit bench trials, as an attorney, and have handled everything both for children and for adults, from marijuana to first-degree murder. I am, I think, uniquely suited because for my entire career, I've dedicated my life to equity, fairness, and justice. I came to Louisiana 22 years ago, sued the state of Louisiana in a civil rights action for what they were doing to our children in our juvenile prisons. When we filed, there were 2,000 kids in custody. When we were done, there were less than 350 children in custody, and we had passed the Juvenile Justice Reform Act, and we had closed 2 prisons. And then I inherited a public defender's office that was called dysfunctional and unconstitutional. And in my tenure there, we were able to turn it around, making it one of the most respected in the country. It received recognition from the Innocence Project New Orleans, the Worker Center for Racial Justice, the Southern Center for Human Rights, and was voted the best public defender office in the country by the National Legal Aid and Defender Association in 2015. I think my depth and breadth of experience is well suited to being a judge. You don't have to guess where I stand about being a judge and intervening when things go wrong, when there's misconduct, because you can read about it. You can read about how I got on the stand and called our district attorney a bully and criticized him for what I thought were unethical and abusive tactics. You can read about my complaint when there was a judge on the bench making inappropriate comments and having inappropriate behavior, particularly regarding our clients and our lawyers. And that prompted a judicial commission investigation and a change in leadership in that section of court. I am the candidate in this race who has done something about it. And I think that's the big difference between me and my opponent.
Thank you. Second question, and I'd like you to answer in this order, Mr. Bunton, and then Ms. Good Douglas. Second question is reference to your experience in criminal district court. How many jury and judge trials have you tried at criminal court? And how many of those were domestic cases?
I have, in criminal district court, I have not tried any, I have never taken a case to verdict. I've had a number of cases, but they all resolved. I have not tried or taken to verdict any domestic cases in criminal district court. Now, I've tried a number in juvenile court and done appellate work when it comes to a number of different kinds of cases, like I said, but I haven't tried any in criminal district court, and I haven't tried any domestic cases or any of the other cases in criminal district court to verdict.
Thank you. Ms. Good Douglas.
So as I stated earlier, I spent 12 and a half years at the Orleans Parish District Attorney's Office, assigned to the major offense team. I was also assigned to the Family Justice Center as a domestic violence screener / trial attorney. I have over 100 jury trials, as well as in the hundreds of bench trials. I was assigned to the Family Justice Center for about a year and a half, where we screened and prosecuted all of the cases that we received. It's impossible for me to count the amount of domestic violence cases that I've handled. I was also, at one point in time, when our relationship with the Family Justice Center changed, I was the lone domestic violence screener, as well as felony trial attorney for domestic violence cases. I can specifically think of at least 5 domestic violence felony trials that I was involved in, involving either a murder or some sort of either the victim was paralyzed or some sort of aggravated battery towards the victim that I handled myself from start to finish. And then when I moved to Jefferson Parish, I was assigned to the felony trial division there. So I've handled cases from misdemeanors all the way to capital offenses. I've tried 2 capital murder cases as a prosecutor in Orleans Parish, and I've also tried just regular, for misdemeanors, every type of case that you can name, I've tried. I've also practiced before most of the judges over at Criminal District Court on Tulane and Broad.
Thank you. We've asked you how you differ from your opponent, but if you could answer in this order, Ms. Good Douglas and then Mr. Bunton, tell us why you believe the voters should elect you to this seat. Ms. Good Douglas.
So I believe that the voters should elect me to Criminal District Court Section E because I have the requisite experience to be a judge. Again, I will say that I am the only candidate in this race that has managed a court docket on a daily basis. Through my experience as a prosecutor, being the only ADA assigned to a division at times, I have managed and had to call a docket, had to manage a docket, and had to know how to be prepared and ready to bring things to trial. I have handled numerous motion hearings where all sorts of evidentiary issues and questions are being presented to a court, and I have handled those myself. I've also spent time doing legal research and writing for the Louisiana Supreme Court. I have also have a dedication to the community. I've been here, I'm a native New Orleanian. I grew up here, I grew up in New Orleans East. I'm a member of several organizations where I have served as a mentor to our youth. I have performed community service throughout the New Orleans community since I've been here. New Orleans is in my blood and it's in my city, and I have been dedicated and have dedicated myself to the citizens of Orleans Parish through my career. So that is why I think that I should be elected to this position.
Mr. Bunton, same question.
I think I am the best candidate in this race because, again, I am the only candidate in my race possessing a demonstrated history of successful executive level leadership and positive system level reform. I have represented thousands of individuals in courts across Louisiana. I've practiced in every Louisiana appellate circuit. I've argued before our Louisiana Supreme Court multiple times. I've appeared in trial courts and juvenile courts across Louisiana. I've handled everything from possession of marijuana to first-degree murder. I remember how long and arduous a task it was preparing, going through motions, preparing for trial, and then conducting trial, for example, in the Woodson school shooting in 2000. Like, that was my case. And I can remember traveling up to Jena, Louisiana to represent Theo Shaw, who was one of the Jena Six. And instead of being convicted for attempted murder, he went to law school on a full scholarship to the University of Washington, and is now a fellow at Georgetown Law School in their E. Barrett Prettyman Fellowship Program. We had to, in that case, we actually had to recuse the judge to achieve justice for Theo. I think that my depth and breadth of experience and my absolute demonstrated ability to make reform makes me the ideal candidate. Our criminal legal system is broken. We incarcerate, convict, and otherwise capture too many poor and people of color in our system. I believe my unique experience and skill applied as judge can help fix it. I can provide a fresh perspective on fair justice because I've stood proximate and in the shoes of people who are affected by our system. And over that time, I've served on numerous committees, including the state Domestic Violence Prevention Commission appointed by the governor. So I believe my history, my personal experience makes me the ideal candidate.
Thank you. Last question from me, and please answer in this order. Mr. Bunton, Ms. Good Douglas, what is your opinion in reference to the Black Lives Matter movement?
I support the Black Lives Matter movement. And
Excuse me, sir. You have 1 minute to answer.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I support the Black Lives Matter movement. My office has been working together with community organizations ever since the death of George Floyd, sort of rallied people around the country, forcing us to look at the racial disparities and institutional and structural racism in our system. We have stood next to, me and my staff have been supporting change in our criminal legal system. The biggest victory coming when we found a way to bring parity in our criminal legal system between our office and the prosecutor's office with a parity ordinance that passed unanimously with our city council. And we have been, I've had staff actually intervene. In one moment, when a crowd surrounded a NOPD vehicle, it was one of our staff who stepped in, intervened, was able to get the woman released from police custody. The crowd parted, and there was no unrest that happened because of that. So
sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Bunton. That's your 1 minute. Thank you. Ms. Good Douglas, same question. What is your opinion reference to the Black Lives Matter movement?
So I absolutely support the Black Lives Matter movement and am certainly impressed and proud to see what this young generation of people have done for our community. I feel like, unfortunately, my generation kind of missed the mark in terms of having that Black leadership to forge us into newer heights. And through the Black Lives Matter movement, especially when the unfortunate death of George Floyd occurred due to the hands of the police officers in Minnesota, what I saw was remarkable. And I'm so proud to see that this change. I am raising a African-American son in the city of New Orleans. And so obviously my main concern is his safety and his interaction with the police, being safe and coming home every night. I'm also, so to see what these young folks have done and what is going on in our world today.
Thank you, ma'am. That's your minute. I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm so sorry. Mr. Brandon, you have the floor.
Good night. We're gonna go in the order of Mrs. Douglas answering first and then Mr. Button. And please hold it to a minute if you can with your answers. Our first question is, when it comes to preventing deadly force by the police, do you agree or disagree that all law enforcement agencies should be federally regulated versus allowing states to use so much discretion when it comes to statuses regarding stand your ground and no-knock warrant laws?
I didn't catch who was answering first.
You can go first.
Okay, repeat your question for me, I'm sorry.
No problem. When it comes to preventing deadly force by the police, do you agree or disagree that all law enforcement agencies should be federally regulated versus allowing states to use so much discretion when it comes to statuses regarding stand your ground laws? Statuses regarding stand your ground laws and no-knock warrant laws.
So absolutely, I do believe that, especially here in the case of the New Orleans Police Department. As I said, I was a prosecutor for 12 and a half years. So I was familiar with the workings of the New Orleans Police Department pre-consent decree and post-consent decree. And I think that we can all agree that post-consent decree, NOPD has shown a lot of change, and there have been some very good things that have occurred because of our consent decree. Obviously, you know, we would prefer to allow our states to control what goes on in our police departments, but I think during this time, it is important that we have maintained some sort of ground level, I guess, beliefs throughout our country when it comes to policing. So at this point, I believe that the federal regulation is definitely helpful in controlling those types of things.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Button?
Yes, thank you. I think that our police departments around the country, and certainly New Orleans Police Department, need reform and need change. I think the Congressional Black Caucus came out with a series of changes that they proposed that would be national in scope, that would govern how our police treat our communities here in New Orleans being one of the most affected, I think. And I think that more than that, because there's farther to go, the Equal Justice Initiative had a report many years ago about policing and had recommendations for changes in policing. And they go to exactly what you're speaking of. And there has to be some curbs on what happens when deadly force is used. There has to be some of the what are called safeties have only acted to make it more difficult for justice to be done by our communities who are harmed by police overreach, and it's immunized police from accountability. We need a national standard of accountability for our police departments. And we have examples with the Congressional Black Caucus and with the Equal Justice Initiative. Brian Stevenson is one of my mentors. I learned a lot from him in law school, and his organization had some great recommendations. We should look at everything out there to try and get police from over policing and being over militarized when it comes to interaction.
I'm sorry, I don't want to cut you off. It's this time. I'm sorry.
No worries.
My next question, and we'll go with Mrs. Douglas first. In regards to criminal and prison reforms, what have you done to influence any policy changes?
So I will say that when I was assigned to the district attorney's office in Jefferson Parish, I worked for a judge, I was assigned to a judge who was instrumental in the reentry program that they used in Jefferson Parish, which worked really well there. I had an opportunity to go to Angola with the judge and visit with some of the gentlemen that were there that were part of the reentry program. I spoke with some of the individuals that were there as the trainers. They were the lifers from Angola, and they were actually acting as the mentors and helped to train and help these gentlemen get their lives back in order. So as far as actually shaping any policy, most of my career has been spent, basically on the battlegrounds in the courtroom. So I have never had an opportunity to go to the state legislature and craft any laws. But I will say that I did actually help to assist individuals that came in my courtroom when they were available and needed to be referred to the reentry program. That went through me. And so I haven't crafted any laws, but I would like to think that I helped to save some lives as that gatekeeper for the reentry program in Jefferson Parish.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Button?
Wow, I wish I had more than a minute. I started my career doing reform in juvenile prisons that again reduced the number from 2,000 to 350 and passed the Juvenile Justice Reform Act, which made sure to make our juvenile system more therapeutic than punitive. I served on the task force under Mitch Landrieu that reduced, that capped our current jail population at 1,438. And when COVID broke out, I huddled my staff together to litigate as much as we could to get as many people out of Orleans Parish Prison, fearing that it would become a super spreader for our community. And the jail is now at its lowest point in more than 40 years. Under the tent inside the organization, we were able to win a grant with the Department of Corrections. And we have our GoFar team. That means getting opportunities from arrests to reentry. And we have a series of client services specialists and social workers that help re-engage our clients as they come home out of prison to protect them from going back to prison. We do a lot of things under that program to get their licenses back, clear warrants, and provide them with referrals for mental health, substance abuse, as well as job placement as well. So my entire life has been dedicated to making sure that people that look like me do not go to jail unless it is absolutely necessary.
Thank you. My next question, and we'll start with Mrs. Douglas.
Brandon, hold on a second. I'm just sorry to say that the time is up. We have another group coming in, but I want to thank both of you for participating in this forum. So good luck, and I wish you the best of luck. Thank you.